So the big question is, are there any new launches worth considering, but where we don't have to wait so long to move in? Happy New Year, everyone. I hope 2026 has been treating you well so far. Now that we are back in full swing and families are back from their holidays, many clients have been asking me what their next property move should be. Perhaps you've been also thinking about upgrading, and you've been looking at both resale and new launch options. So in general, searching for the ideal resale unit, especially for family stay, was quite challenging in 2025. You may face the same issue where good-sized 3 and 4 bedroom units were either very limited in supply, or owners were asking for prices way above the last transacted levels. And because of that, you might have started looking at the new launch market and saw some projects that you liked, but after considering your family's needs, you realize that waiting 3 to 4 years for construction to complete may not be necessarily ideal. So the big question is, are there any new launches worth considering, but where we don't have to wait so long to move in? Today, we are going to dive into the existing new launch inventory that fits this criteria. As always, if you like my content, please feel free to subscribe to my channel, and my WhatsApp contact is also here if I ever need any consultation. So this is a summary of what we are going to discuss today. Firstly, we are going to look at the current balance of new launch inventory, where the estimated TOP dates are from now until Q1 2028. The reason for this time frame is because we are looking for projects where we can move in within about 2 years. We are also going to focus less on the investment element today and focus more on family size units like 3, 4 and 5 bedroom units under a quantum of around $4 million. And next, we will compare what it looks like from a cost perspective if we were to rent for 2 years versus buying a resale unit for immediate move-in. Now let's go straight into it and look at launches that fit this criteria. I've tabulated a list of projects that have an estimated key collection time frame from now until Q1 2028. But before that, I want to quickly explain these two terms, the estimated TOP and the Notice of Vacant Possession, or NOVP for short. For the temporary occupation permit, this is when the developer has passed the mandatory checks with the authorities and the condo is considered safe and habitable. Even though not all facilities may be ready yet, the developer can still issue keys for buyers to move in and landlords can officially rent out their units. Usually, the estimated TOP comes before the NOVP because sometimes the developer manages to complete the project faster than expected. However, while the developer may give out an estimated TOP out of goodwill, they are not necessarily bound or contractually bound to this date. This is different from the Notice of Vacant Possession, where the developer is contractually bound to deliver the unit by a specific date stated in the option to purchase as well as the SMP. If they fail to do so, they may need to pay liquidated damages to the buyer. What I've done here is to list both the estimated TOP and the NOVP dates for projects like Lakegarden Residences, we've got Pinetree Hill, Lentoria, the Continuum, Terra Hill and Elta. But do take note that Grand Diamond, I circled it over here, is also on the list, but most of the remaining family size units are above 4.5 million. It does not fit our criteria and we won't be analysing it in this video. The first project we will look at is Lakegarden Residences, which will appeal to those looking to move in within about a year. For each project, I've summarized the 3 main pros and cons. Some are from a location perspective and some are based on feedback from clients who have seen the project. So looking at the location, this project will definitely appeal to nature lovers. There is a side gate eventually that leads directly into the Jurong Lake Gardens. And more than 70% of the units here will get to enjoy the park views. You also have the Taman Jurong Market nearby with plenty of good food options. However, some of the downsides are that it is about 1 kilometer from the MRT and there are not many schools within a 1 km radius. Also, the Lake Life condo next door transacts at around $1,438 per square foot, while Lakegarden Residences is currently at $2,169 per square foot, which is almost a $600 price gap. So some buyers may lean towards buying Lake Life as a resale instead. Lakegarden Residences is now about 91% sold. There are still a handful balance of units from the 3-bedroom up to the 5-bedroom layout types. Here are some of the floor plans and price points. We have the 3-bedroom at 1012 square feet, starting from around 2.393 million. We also have the 3 plus study at 1,238 square feet, which is a very decent size, starting from around 2.828 million. And then we have the 5-bedroom option at 1,550 square feet, starting from around 3.348 million. These are some of the options if you are looking at the lakeside area or the west side at Lakegarden Residences. The second project we will look at is Lentoria. The first big strength is the school factor for sure. Within 1 km to CHIJ St. Nicholas, as well as Anderson Primary. In the Lentor cluster, only Lentoria, Lentor Mansion, as well as Lentor Hills Residences will get to enjoy this St. Nick's advantage. For this project, it's also located on a smaller plot. This may appeal to buyers who prefer a lower density project. Another plus point is that it's also closer to the amenities at Block 601 and 602. On the downside, among all the Lentor projects, it is the one that is furthest away from the Lentor MRT as well as the new Lentor Mall. Though it's at 411 meters, it's still considered within walking distance. Another drawback is that the common bedroom sizes in this project are around 8.5 square meters, which are slightly smaller compared to some of the neighboring projects in the cluster. And also, the land size here is the smallest, which may not appeal to families who prefer larger scale facilities like the swimming pools and the gyms. Lentoria is now about 89% sold. These are some of the remaining 3 and 4 bedroom units still available. And we can also see the sizes over here and the starting from prices. So for Lentoria, we have the 3 bedroom at 936 square feet, starting from around 2.1 million thereabouts. We also have the 3 bedroom premium plus study at 1,119 square feet, which is popular for buyers who are looking for more of the landscape style living dining layout. And lastly, we have the 4 bedroom at 1,206 square feet, starting from around $2.8 million. So if you're looking at Lentoria, these are just some of the handful of options available for you. Next up, we have Pinetree Hill at Ulu Pandan. Construction for this project is running at a good pace. So this is a project, or rather a good project for you to consider if you're looking to potentially move in by the end of 2026. The key strength of this project is definitely the school factor, being within 1 km of Henry Park Primary. And also because this project is developed by UOL, this project is likely to score very well in terms of the landscaping. We know this project quite well. They are going to dedicate around 88% of the project just for lush greenery and landscaping. However, for those who are familiar with the area, you will know that the connectivity of this area in the Mount Sinai or the Ulu Pandan area is not very great, if you don't own a car especially. Because this project is not very near the MRT, it's also not near many amenities like hawker centers and shopping malls, and these are some of the cons of the area. Also, one other factor to consider is next door, we have Nava Grove. That is a harmonized project next door that could be future resale competition next time. Pinetree is now about 93% sold, but there's still some decent inventory left for the 3 bedroom premium plus study units, as well as 5 bedrooms. And you can see there's still 25 units of the 3 bedder as well as the 5 units of the 5 bedroom remaining. First, we have the 3 bedroom premium plus study layout. It's actually a good size at 1,216 square feet. And there are still some choices under $3 million. For example, this unit starts from $2.981 million, which I think still represents decent value given the good size. There's also the 5 bedroom premium with private lift at 1,733 square feet to consider, with prices starting from around $4.382 million. For Pinetree, it's a very select choice. We only have generally these 2 layouts to consider. I think if you want to get the lower quantum units, these are some that are good to consider. Now we head over to the east side, where there are still some decent units at the Continuum to consider. It's located right over here, and as you can see, it's a very big plot of land. The key value point of this project is a big land size, but also a freehold land plot. It's also 1 km to good schools like Konghua, Head Girls and Tanjung Katong Primary. And with the current pricing of around 2,009 to 3,000 PSF on average, this represents good value. Yeah, especially when you consider that the upcoming Bayshore and the Bedok GRS plots are likely to launch at around the same or potentially even a higher PSF. Of course, no project is perfect. This development, as you can see, is further up Tanjung Katong Road and it's about 680 meter walk from Dakota MRT. Some people have also commented that for this locality in particular, it's somewhere in between Paya Lebar and then Tanjung Katong area, which may feel a bit there here not there. That's really all a location preference. Lastly, if you're looking for good unblocked views, this project may not be so suitable as the surrounding developments like the 38 High Suites, Emery Point, Dunman Place are all around the same height level. As of now, the Continuum is about 82% sold. The good thing is that there are still decent choices from 3 bedrooms all the way until the 5 bedroom unit types. The developer is also having some promotions for selected units. If you are keen to find out more, feel free to DM me. For 3 bedrooms, you can also consider the typical 3-bedder configuration or the 3-bedroom premium configuration. As usual, these are very practical floor plans by Hoi Hub with very good sized bedrooms and also a proper store area. They also have a store area here that will complement the bomb shelter for storage. Currently, the 1,068 square feet 3-bedder is around the low $3 million range. You could also consider the 1,238 square feet 3+ study, starting from around 3.387 million. This layout comes with private lift and also a design that integrates the balcony, the living room, as well as the kitchen fully, which is pretty unique. We also have some 4-bedroom units available, such as this 1,270 square feet 4-bedder configuration starting from around 3.6 million thereabouts. So now we head over to District 5, where we have another freehold project by Hoi Hub called Terra Hill. So Pasir Panjang usually only has small boutique developments. Terra Hill is a good project to consider if you prefer something of a bigger land size. Of course, the big plus point, is that it's freehold. Pasir Panjang MRT is also within walking distance, which is a big plus. And especially since the Pasir Panjang MRT will eventually connect directly to the CBD once the Cantonment and Prince Edward stations open. The project will also benefit from the Greater Southern Waterfront transformation that is already underway. However, because this is primarily a residential area, there are not many amenities or schools nearby. And another downside is that for this condo, the neighboring condos like Pepys Hill or even Island View nearby, the blocks are quite close to one another. If you're looking for views, this may not be the best project. As of now, Terra Hill is about 61% sold. A lot of the remaining inventory is from the 4-bedroom premium and the 5-bedroom units. And you can see why, because price points are higher at 4.6 to 5.4 million. However, there are still decent options for the 3-bedroom premium, all the way under the typical 4-bedroom sizes. Here are some of the floor plans and the pricing. Firstly, we have the 3-bedroom. This one is at the 969 square feet configuration, and the price point is at starting from around $2.4 million, which is a very good value. We also have the 3-bedroom premium at 1087 square feet, with some units still below the $2.8 million mark, which is very, very good value. And then we have the 4-bedroom at 1313 square feet, starting from around $3.5 million. The last project we will talk about is also in District 5, which is Elta at Clementi Avenue 1. So this is likely the last condo that we will see along this stretch due to the limited remaining land. And this area often makes headlines for HDB flats selling above $1 million. One benefit of buying into this area is that we know that there will be a good pool of future resale HDB upgraders. Elta also has popular schools like Pei Tong and Clementi Primary within close proximity, though we are still waiting confirmation if it's within 1 km. So however, one consideration is that Elta is about an 883 meter walk from Clementi MRT, but to be fair, most condos in Clementi are also not near Clementi Central anyway. Elta is also located along the AYE over here, which may be a deal breaker for buyers who are very sensitive to road noise especially, although the higher floors will also come with very nice south sea views. I'll say another minus point is that we are not within 1 km of Nanhua Primary, which is Clementi's most popular school, but of course, there are still other schools. So depends on your objective. Elta is now about 71% sold, which is quite decent for a project that is only about 1 year from launch. And as you can see, there is still good range of 3 to 5 bedroom units available over here, with decent inventory and units left. For the 3 bedrooms, you have both the typical 3-bedroom as well as the 3-bedroom premium layouts. Do take note that Elta is a harmonized project, so these units are generally very well sized. The typical 3-bedroom at 926 square feet starts from about $2.6 million, while the 3-bedroom premium at 1023 square feet starts from around $2.9 million. For 4 bedrooms, there are 3 layouts to consider. You have the 4-bedroom compact at 1184 square feet, and that starts from around 3.1 million thereabouts. Then we have the 4-bedroom premium at 1313 square feet, that starts from around 3.3 million. And lastly, the 4-bedroom plus study layout for those who prefer a bigger format for 4-bedder. This is at 1,507 square feet, and that's still at a comfortable quantum at around 3.6 million. For bigger families, you could also consider this spacious 5-bedroom at 1,776 square feet, where there are still some options under $4 million, which is very, very good value. For the more exciting part of this video, where we get the main question, you might be excited about the idea of buying a new launch where you can potentially move in within 2 years. But at the same time, you may also be still wondering whether you should go ahead with this plan or go ahead and buy resale property for immediate move-in instead. So I thought the best way to examine this is through a case study. For this example, we have a couple, Jason and Shirley. They are looking to upgrade from their HDB, and they have a son who is about 4 years old. The background is that they have been staying in Clementi for most of their lives and they want to continue staying in the area. So they are looking for an upgrade to a private property nearby, and they have a budget of around $2.8 million. They have been looking at both resale properties and new launches in Clementi area, and they are considering the 3-bedroom in Elta, the 926 square feet layout, priced at around $2.6 million. However, they have some doubts and concerns which are perfectly valid. Firstly, the idea of having to find a place to stay in the interim does not really appeal to them, whether it's by renting or staying with their in-laws. They find it also very troublesome to have to shift house twice. And also secondly, the idea of paying rent to a landlord sounds a bit like money going down the drain, because they have been paying their own mortgage for their own house all this while. So they are just wondering whether they should just buy a resale instead and move in immediately. I'm sure these concerns also resonate with many of you, so let's analyze this and see if we can look at it from a slightly different point of view. So the first concern is about having to move house twice. So one thing we have to acknowledge firstly is that moving house in general is uncomfortable, no matter what the circumstance. We have to look at the end objective in mind. Here, I've shared the general timelines for selling a HDB as well as buying private resale. I don't want to go too much into detail, but I'll highlight the key points. In general, the process of selling a HDB is longer than that of buying a private property. From option to completion, it is about 4.5 months. If everything lines up perfectly, and assuming your buyer grants you a 3 months extension stay, the whole process could take around 7.5 months. If you are buying a private property at the same time, ideally, you want to only pay the option fee over here after your buyer has, or rather the buyer has exercised your HDB. In the perfect scenario, the completion dates line up nicely, and you get about 3 months extension stay to renovate and move in, which is already quite tight. But what if things don't go up perfectly, and you end up not getting an extension, or you can't find a suitable resale unit in time? Then it is very likely you need to have an interim place to stay anyway. This is something to consider even if you are buying resale. The next concern is that the idea of paying rent feels like money going down the drain. I do understand where this comes from, especially since in Singapore, most of us are brought up with the idea of home ownership. But if we take a step back and look at it a bit more holistically, the discussion is really about costs. When you buy a new launch and rent, so apart from rental, there are also other costs involved, whether you are both buying resale or a new launch. First, there's the interest cost of our loan, which we will assume a 1.5% interest rate. This is the pure cost of borrowing from the bank. Next, there are maintenance fees, which apply for a resale, and these also have gone up over the years. And then there's also property tax, which is a fixed cost. All these definitely need to be considered. If we look at the interest component more closely, there is a difference between a resale and a new launch. In this example, we are both looking at a purchase price of $2.6 million, and both are assuming a 75% loan at a 1.5% interest rate. On the left-hand side, for a resale property, you will be servicing the full loan immediately upon key collection, and the monthly installment is around $6,730, out of which $2,438 is interest or the pure cost of borrowing from the bank. So for a new launch, because it is under construction and on a progressive payment scheme, the installments are much lower in the early stages. Using the mid-stage, somewhere about here, as a guide, the monthly installment is around $2,692. If we look at it closely, the monthly interest will amount to around $975 per month. So we can use this as a guide. Now let's look at the rental. So because Jason and Shirley want to stay in Clementi, they are only considering renting within the same area. They are fine with older condos. They are looking at places like Regent Park, where they have 3-bedroom units renting from around, or rather an average of $4,600. Or they might even consider Waterfront and Faber, where 3-bedroom units are around $4,200 in rent. Now let's put all these costs together. For a resale property, the interest or the pure borrowing cost from the bank is $2,438 as discussed earlier. We also add in the maintenance fees and property tax, which amount to be around $350 or $200 respectively. Rental is zero because you move in immediately. So the total monthly cost is around $2,988. For a new launch, comparatively, the monthly interest is around $975 per month for bank borrowing costs. There is no maintenance fee or property tax yet because the property is not complete. And we add in the rental, which we average out to be around $4,500. So the total monthly cost is around $5,475. So if we look at both options over 2 years, this is what it looks like. For a resale property on the left-hand side, $2,988, and we multiply that over 24 months, that gives us $71,712. So assuming the renovation cost is $100,000, which is fair, especially even for older resale properties, that gives us a total of $171K thereabouts. So for a new launch, we take $5,475 monthly cost and we multiply that over 24 months again. This will give us $131K thereabouts. So assuming renovation is around $40,000, which is quite fair because for a new launch, most of the things come new anyway, the total comes up to be around $171K as well. When you compare both, the total cost is actually very similar. Of course, we are assuming a 2-year time frame. So in the end, if you actually need to rent even longer than 24 months, then the resale property may make more sense naturally. So here's a summary of the pros and cons of buying a new launch. So from an emotional standpoint, I think all things equal, if you could choose, most people would prefer to be the first owner of a brand new home. It's a bit similar to, let's say, would you rather drive a brand new car or a used one? So I'll say another benefit is that you definitely save on the renovation cost because for new launches, most of the tiles, the bathrooms, everything's all done up and brand new. And not only that, you also get a 1-year defect liability period. And thirdly, some projects, if you pick correctly, may also have better upside potential compared to older resale properties. So although this is not guaranteed, but it's always nice to have. The downside, waiting for 2 to even 3 to 4 years may not suit every family in the end. So some people are also not comfortable with the idea of staying with their parents, especially after you stay on your own for a while, or renting after owning their house for so many years. And lastly, if we are looking at new launches, we are buying based on the floor plans and also simulations for things like the views, and not the actual finished product, unlike resale. So it's a very different buying experience. We've come to the end of this video, so I hope this has been a useful guide for your upgrading. If you're still deciding on whether you should buy a resale or a new launch, and whether the 2-year time frame will be comfortable for you, feel free to contact me via the WhatsApp QR code and I'll run through your own situation with you. Thanks for watching again, and do remember to subscribe. Bye-bye.